Braun's points lead has been helped by his 2 wins. But strangely, his hot and cold pattern has meant his other 2 races were 9th place finishes. If you're a believer in numbers, it doesn't bode well for Chris. Road America break the cycle for him? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Pro Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, the iRacing track repair service had their leveling equipment out all night last night. They diligently worked to resolve the problematic bump in the kink seen on Wednesday evening's club race, and thanks to their efforts, the crews were able to smooth the surface once again, just in time for the pros to take to the track tonight. I'm sure it's left the drivers with a sigh of relief, but before we get to the racing, we're proud to announce that Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find out more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Series 9 is also sponsored by Six Sigma Sim Racing, which was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. Six Sigma offers 10% off to any PCA member from the website, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit their website at sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Back again at Road America, but thankfully, EJ, with hopefully a little bit of a smoother ride.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. As you said, the iRacing crews have flattened out this track a little bit, so it's going to be back to racing as normal around here. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be without its perils. Still going flat out through the kink is going to really test you, as it is coming up through Bill Mitchell Bend as we ride on board with Chris Pies here. I think we're going to see a pretty fantastic race, though. I mean, we saw a good one last night, albeit with quite a few retirements, but today should be just some good, fantastic, clean racing.
Absolutely. There you see Chris coming up the front stretch, and he's currently in third. That last lap did not count for him, unfortunately. Saw that a lot last night, too. Wonder if guys were just pushing that a little bit too hard out there over the course of their qualifying. But as we ride with him, we also have the championship that has been unfolding that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And like I said, it's been a bit odd because usually you'll see a bit of a back and forth that has more extreme results, but 2 9th places is not typically the other number that you get. And well, the strangest coincidence is the fact that it is Series 9. So I don't know. Again, do you believe in numbers? From there on down, Pies is a little bit back. It's not completely out of the question, especially if Chris keeps having an up and down season. And if Chris Braun has an up and down season and Christopher Pies can stay consistent and start rifling off consistently better finishes. Nikki Chan up into third, barely ahead of Leif Peterson currently, with Trey Drawhorn kind of hot on their heels as well. From there, you got a nice little battle between Siddall, Amarim, and Schwartz. And then, of course, you've got Cyphers and Huth rounding out your top 10. Currently. Also, before we get to the racing, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Now, right now, Trey Drawhorn is our provisional pole sitter out there as we watch Ed Nelson in 20th. It's a healthy field out here for the Pro Class today, DJ, at 38 drivers. And thankfully, it is a pretty long track for them to be able to spread out. But from what we've seen in previous races, the pro field tends to be very, very tight together in lap time. So I wonder if it will still be a bit of a fight for space.
Well, Joe, just looking at the qualifying times here, I think it's going to be exactly as you said, very close all up and down through the field as Chris Pye is actually able to claim pole position there with a 2:03.983. But looking down, first and about 25th was only separated by a single second. And let's not forget, this Road America circuit, about 4.3 or so miles, that is a long, long circuit, and to have that little time separating this field, that is mighty impressive.
That's an average of less than half of a tenth between those 25 drivers. That's unbelievable. How close it is from driver to driver that far down. So Ed Nelson has been bumped to 21st, as a few have found some time in there. And I guess with it being that close, all it takes is tiny improvements, and you could have multiple positions up the order here. So Ed down into Canada corner. Thankfully, going to be a little bit easier for drivers, a little less perilous tonight compared to last night. And he takes that 9:59 safely through that right-hander. I'm showing him clocking pretty close to his best time, so all he needs is pretty much a good exit out of the final turn here, and he could jump up from this 21st spot.
Yeah, he certainly could here, Joe, and he's not going to get any benefit of the draft, and he's going to come on in to pit lane here at this point. Trey Drawhorn, though, able to put in a personal best time. That's only going to see him about 38 thousandths of a second off of Chris Pye's in front of him. Let's see what Arthur Chan can do, though.
As he crosses the line, a 2:04.6, and it looks like that is not going to improve for him. Chris Braun, in the meantime, also 2:04.5, not going to be any faster. 3 thousandths off of Eisenring on the next row up. What about Torchio in 20th place for the number 73? I'm showing this looking like an outlap, unfortunately. So yeah, 2:04.8 is going to stand for him. In the meantime, let's see who else is on their way through. I see Dave Craig coming up next. The checkered flag is out, so these are all the hot laps that drivers are finishing up at this point. And this is Rubel there we saw on the screen briefly before we switch over here to the 9.96. And he is improving by about 0.3 of a second. That could get him up as high as the top 10 here if this is showing accurately. Let's see if he improves on that 2:04.7, 2:04.5, about 2.5 tenths quicker. And indeed, just as I said, he cracks right into the top 10.
Yeah, and again, Joe, just showing you how close this field is, that little bit of an improvement can move him up through the field. Not seeing an improvement there from Garrett Taylor. He's going to stay back in about 15th position. Here's Patty Patterson. I believe this lap is already done and dusted for Patty, so not able to put down a hot time here.
Yep, that's what I'm showing. He's already taken the checkered flag. That actually does mean that our grid is set for our 38 drivers, and all but one managed to set a time tonight. So here's your top 10 with Chris Pye, as we mentioned, taking the pole. Now that is important because they do award points for these qualifying sessions. So he will boost himself, especially if he can manage to take the win from that pole position. Trey Drawhorn will start from second, and Nicky Chan will be third. Then it's Rafael Amram, who actually showed up quite late here to the qualifying and still managed to get into fourth. Liam Rutzidas was P5, Whitley Peterson 6, and then Ed Eisenring will start P7. Chris Braun, a little bit higher than his two finishes, starting from 8th today. Kostanak will be the next one back behind him in 9th, and Dave Craig will round out your top 10. We'll cycle through the remaining drivers here of our 38. Jonathan Waltman, for those curious, was the only one that failed to set a time. Other thing that will be worth watching, as you may have noticed here, is that the sun is pretty low in the sky, and we saw it get rather dark last night, DJ.
Yeah, we certainly did, Joe. The headlights really coming into play for these drivers, so I think that could be a little bit of an issue here. You've got to certainly know how to be able to get yourself around here, trying to be able to get themselves through. That's going to be something, that diminishing light, that diminishing visibility, is certainly going to be a storyline later on in the race.
Drivers are getting one last little chat from race control here. And then they will be on their way as they will line up just before the final corner, just around Bill Mitchell Bend, the left-hander that crests there, the penultimate turn, before they will be on their way. I think we might actually be taking off relatively soon here. And we will go racing with this short pace lap. Indeed, the pace car is on its way. Hopefully we will have pictures soon. Apologies if we don't get them up in time for the green. Pies will lead them to the flag with Drawhorn to his outside. It was certainly tight between them, less than a tenth of a second, less than half a tenth of a second between them in qualifying. Pace car is now in, and they are trundling their way towards the flag stand, waiting for Barney to give the wave. And there it is. Green flag is out, and Chris gets a decent start over Drawhorn, but Trey is still up alongside as they fly towards turn one. Nicky Chan gets a very good start, but he's got no place to take it. He is plugged up back in third. Will he be able to slot into that position? Looks like he will. And in fact, he's going to continue to attack Drawhorn there as we got a big pile up in the midfield, DJ. In fact, I see at least half a dozen cars involved.
Yeah, I'm seeing Torchio, James Fitzhack, Christian Rava, Ian Simon, Rattray Nelson all involved in that. So that's going to be a big problem there, but a little farther back down in, or a little farther up into the field as the drivers continue to work their way forward. It looks like Trey Drawhorn trying to put a little bit of pressure on Nicky Chan, who's got a nose ahead here coming down into turn 5.
So Chan was briefly into that second position, but he goes a little bit wide off into the gravel out of turn 5. So that means that Drawhorn back into P2. Amarim claims third away from Chan, and Rutzitas is now going to slide into fourth. Chan recovers by the time he falls into fifth position, side by side between Peterson and Braun for 6. But it looks like Peterson will claim that 6th position down through turn 7. They're out of the hurry downs now as the leader, Chris Pies, has a healthy gap of about 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, and all that battling between Drawhorn and Chan. Chan has now dropped back down into P5 as a result of all of that. But Drawhorn is now finding himself put back a little bit as they go. And he's got a little bit of pressure here from Rafael Amarim. Liam Rosita's also looking to be able to put some pressure on here at this point.
Sadly, it looks like 3 cars have had to take a tow. Oh, and Rutzitas with a big wreck, and unfortunately there's a couple more behind him in the kink. It looks like the 05 involved in it. I see Blake Laren there, so 2 major wrecks at the start. More are piling in. It's a blockage down through the kink. Look at this mess.
And remember, this is after we have seen that patch fixing that car, still spinning around there. That's the number 88 getting into trouble as they try to sort themselves out. A couple able to get them through there. My goodness gracious, that was a pileup if I've ever seen one.
Trying to remember, I think we had one at Watkins Glen some time ago, but man, we haven't seen incidents like that, big incidents like that, especially in the pros, for quite some time. So quite messy here, but Pies is well clear of all the mess. He is now leading still, it hasn't changed, about 1.2 seconds, it seems, ahead of Drawhorn, who is still in P2, and Amarim is in third. Now here's the replay. I think it looks like initially one car had a spin there through the kink, and then the others behind them just unfortunately got a little frazzled by all that.
Yeah, Joe, and we talked about the pure commitment that you have to have coming through the kink. You cannot vary off of your line. You've got to stick to a single line through there. And I think what happened was I have a sneaking suspicion that Rutzitas may have just kind of tipped it around there a little bit, and that's what caused everything to really play out. He just got a little bit wrong, and everybody's stacking up behind him.
Wow, we've lost Rava, Simon, and Eddie. As it is, so this has been a dire start to the race for a lot of drivers. Others have managed to capitalize and make it through the mess. I see a plus 17 for Chris Hunt, plus 16 for Julian Velez. So wow, great job to them to be able to manage to avoid that. Up at the front, Drawhorn's gained back in. It's down to about 7 tenths. Apologies for the lack of pictures for part of the start here, but DJ and I will continue to try and give you what we can as we now return to the racing up through Bill Mitchell Bend to complete lap 2.
Yeah, and keep an eye on this here, Joe. Remember we were saying about 1.3, 1.4 seconds between Pies and Drawhorn. Drawhorn's been able to close that gap down. It's now down to about 9/10 of a second. But I think Rafael Amorim may have something to say about that as well. He finds himself under a half a second behind Drawhorn. Could put a little bit of pressure here as they go. Let's see what they're able to do, as we've got some cars coming out of pit lane here at this point after getting repairs. It's Torchio and Schwartz, it looks like, so that could present a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, they're exiting pretty much into the thick of the field as we jump a little bit farther down, coming through turn 3. These are a few of the cars that have made it past them, as Rafael Amorim is chasing on Trey Drawhorn for that second position. He's got a good run. Trey's going to go defensive down into turn 5, but he drifts back to the racing line feeling safe enough for the time being.
Yeah, he's going to come back to that racing line, kicking up a little bit of dust there as they go. Amorim just continuing to try to keep that pressure up behind him. That is going to be the biggest thing here. We've already seen drivers having that lapse in judgment, that lapse in concentration early on. Even if you weren't involved in that big wreck, I think even these leaders are going to recognize it, and it's going to put them off their game. So if Amorim can just keep in behind, that'll be a good thing.
Back to Eisenring in 8th. That's Siddall in front of him, chasing for that 7th position. And then they've also got Leif Peterson and Chris Braun kind of in a train forming, but they're all equidistant apart and probably too far away from one another for an attack, at least at the moment. That could easily change with the slipstream at this track.
Yeah, it certainly could. 3 really long straightaways around here that let that draft play out to the utmost. So we're going to have to see what drivers are able to do. This is going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities down into Canada Corner as we watch the 9:29 there of Eisenring trying to simultaneously work ahead on Siddall and get behind on Arthur Chan. Going to be a little bit tricky here for him, but I think with the draft, he'll be in good position.
Unsurprisingly, the incidents that we saw at the start of the race have elicited some black flags. Dave Schwartz gets the first one. Rudzitis also for, I assume, that wreck through the kink, and then Rodney Campbell was also given a black flag. Those are the only 3 that we have gotten officially from race control right now. And Drawhorn really has made this a run for the lead now, because Chris Pies went from those 1.2 seconds to only 0.3.
Yeah, he's keeping things very close here. He finds himself about that 0.3 of a second behind. It looked like he didn't get the best run there coming out of turn 3, so I don't think he's going to be able to overtake here as we take a live look there at Chris Pies and looking out the back of his car. Yeah, a little bit of a feint to the inside there for Drawhorn, but not a full commitment.
We're 4 laps in, and already we're getting reports that we are up to 7 retirements already. As we watch these top 3 duke it out for the top spot. Pies, Drawhorn, Amorim, they've dropped Nicky Chan by about 2.8 seconds. Currently, you can kind of see him in the background, so still hanging on, but he's going to have to hustle if he wants to be a factor, because that's a pretty significant gap to have lost in just these few laps that have finished.
Yeah, gonna have to try to work his way up forward here. A little bit of side-by-side farther back in the field. This is gonna be for P19, Garrett Terrell and Ed Nelson. Ooh, little bit of a sketchy rejoin there for Nelson.
And Rattray had to get out of it because of that. He's going to overtake on Velez up into turn 6 as, whoa, somebody kicking up some dirt there. I wonder if there was an issue out of turn 6 for somebody. And, whoa, here we go. Drawhorn already on the attack down into Canada Corner on Chris Pies. They're going to go side by side up towards Bill Mitchell-Benz. Something's got to give here, and it looks like it's going to be Drawhorn. In fact, he is so slow on the outside line that Amorim says, thank you very much. I'm now in P2.
Yes, he does, and that's just what can happen there as they go. But here's Chris Pies able to hold that out. Let's see if Amorim's going to be able to launch a little bit of an attack. He's less than 2/10 behind here at this point. Let's see if he can get the move into 1.
Can it be 2 positions and 3 corners for Rafael? This will be a dream part of the race for him if he can make this stick. As he comes up to the braking, he's got it. Rafael Amorim managing to overtake Drawhorn after he made a mistake in passing, and then using the slipstream beautifully up the front stretch. He has demoted Chris Pies. This is a man on a mission.
Yeah, he is definitely not waiting around here at this point. Amarim knows what he wants to do, knows he wants to get it, but let's see here at this point. Chris Pies may have a little bit of a fight back. I think Amarim may have made that move a little bit too early.
Remember, Raphael was a bit late as there's a move down into turn 5 from Drawhorn. He's not waiting around. He doesn't want to see that red car get away. But I was going to say, for Amarim, it was a late join into the qualifying. We don't know how much practice he's been able to get, so maybe he's finally really getting into his form, and he had a lot more hiding than he implied.
Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe a little bit of gamesmanship there from Amarim as he is now leading this race. We look out the back there of that plaid machine. Trey Drawhorn trying to be able to hold in close. He's going to have a little bit of aero wash here coming through the carousel and coming through the kink, but if he's able to keep within about 0.4 of a second, I think he may have a chance of a run down into Canada Corner.
It's interesting how quickly Pies is dropping after it looked like he was actually pulling away from everybody in the first couple laps. He's now fallen almost a second behind Drawhorn here. Not sure if he's struggling with the tires or what in the car, but it just doesn't seem to have pace that was there before as they come down into Canada Corner. Drawhorn hot on the heels of Raphael Amarim.
Yep, here he comes. Not able to get that move done here at this point, as we said, but they've also got to watch out here a little bit.
Sorry, that was Braun. That was Braun that we saw on screen that slid off the track, and he's into the wall at Bill Mitchell Bend. We saw an orange car flash by us, and he is now down to 12th position with damage well before the pit window is open.
Oh, that is not going to be good there for him. Let's take a look at the replay. Looks like he's relatively good coming through Canada Corner. Little bit of a squirrel there. He's going to get a little bit of pressure from behind him. Was that contact? Yes, it was.
That was big netcode, though. From that angle, it didn't look like those two were touching at all, unfortunately. And Robert Rattray seems to have had a problem as well. We've got a replay up coming out of the carousel. Hopefully he didn't spin it off of there. He did. That's a high-speed portion, which means he hit the wall hard on that one.
Yeah, and that's going to be some pretty hefty damage to the front end of that Porsche. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of steering damage there for him, and indeed it is so bad that he is going to be coming down into pit lane immediately. That's
going to mean an extra stop for him, unfortunately. As I said, the pit strategy is there, and you can take that spare car, but you're not within the pit window. You're basically forced to come in a second time. Drawhorn still right behind Amarim. This is your battle for the lead currently. Now they have pulled the reverse of what we saw in the first lap. It's 1.2 seconds back to Chris Pies. They are definitely dropping our pole sitter here on lap 6. And just an update as we stay with this. Braun, who I mentioned in 12th place, remember, I said early on, he keeps going back and forth. He'll win, and then he'll finish 9th. We'll see if he gains those 3 places as this race carries on. It's not impossible at this stage, but once again, very strange goings on in the performance of the 258. Look at how much pressure Drawhorn is already applying.
Yeah, he certainly wants this position back to the best of his abilities. 0.4 of a second as they come through Bill Mitchell Bend right now. And the one thing here for Chris Pies is I wonder a little bit, because looking at the fastest lap times, he's off pace from everything. Now, that could be a little bit of an issue where he's just not feeling this track, not feeling the car right now. But I also wonder if he's trying to save his stuff here a little bit at this point, Joe, trying to hold on to those tires for the end of the race, because there is a lot of lateral load that gets put into the tires here at Road America.
Certainly is, and Drawhorn is going to do his best to preserve those, but James Huth, who sits in 10th position, is up 4 from where he began. Craig, who we see in front of him, is up 1 position. So been a nice gain here for the 24 car as he now steers out of the sun in his eyes and heads down the Moraine Sweep. This is one of those long straights that DJ was talking about, heading into one of the more popular places to overtake, looking back over the rear wing of Craig.
And he's got James Huth a little bit behind him here at this point, about 0.3 of a second. Not going to be enough for Huth to be able to close in. Let's see what they are able to do as they come up here into turn 6, a very, very tricky area to be able to get the car around. You can very easily see it kind of fly out there, lose the rear end of the car. And as that sun continues to go down, Joe, when you come up and under the Corvette bridge, it's going to be a little bit blinding, and so you've got to be careful about that.
No doubt, and it's not going away quickly in this race. It'll take probably, I think last time it was about 20 minutes to go before it finally dipped below the trees. Drawhorn drops back just a little bit, giving some space to Amarim, maybe trying to set himself back up for another attack later on. They head towards the breaking of Canada corner, get on the binders, and both of them smooth as you like down to that apex, and then it's back up over the crest and out of the trees through Bill Mitchell Bend.
And interesting there to keep an eye on Rafael Amarim. He looked like he was a little bit later, a little bit wider coming off the Canada corner, just tried to carry that momentum as much as possible. And that to me tells me that he has a little bit more comfort in the car, Joe. He feels like he can push that limit just a little bit more. So I'd watch out for Amarim maybe to be able to streak away here just a tad in the next couple of laps.
For those curious, because we mentioned the retirements before, we've lost Rava, Rubel, Simon, Torchio, Mazzariello, Reinsberg, and Eddie so far. 31 cars that are still out there. Might become less because I just saw Chris Hunt smack the wall out of Canada corner. And the car is creeping now, so I'm not sure if he can get that back to pit lane. This is Chris Braun. No surprise, he's going to try and pit early, probably to get that car repaired, get the free one out there. Oh no, he has a black flag actually. And that was handed down by race control. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that is absolutely disastrous here for your points leader. Joe, I think that streak of ninth place finishes followed by wins are not going to play themselves out here.
Now, if that's for the net code, that it seems a little harsh, but I haven't had a chance to go back and look at it. So the stewards probably got a much better look than I did on that one. And that is extremely unfortunate for the 258. We turn our attention once again to the top two, down through the carousel. It has closed in. I think Trey did indeed try to back himself up a little bit and is now once again on the attack.
Yeah, and he's going to be in good position here. I think he may be a little bit far back to really get anything to play. Under 0.4 of a second as they round through the kink, down through the kettle bottoms right now. Waiting to see if anything is going to play out for him. He's not going to be close enough to make the attack, but they are going to have a little bit of lap traffic in the form of Jonathan Waltman that they'll be coming up on here in about a second's time.
Yeah, that traffic might play a significant role here. We saw it play a role towards the end of the club class race last night, but looks like Waltman is going to actually pull into pit lane. So won't be a factor this time. We'll have to wait longer before we see any lapped cars get in the way of these two. But this is a good run from Trey. Is he going to actually do anything, or is he going to maybe do a little lift and coast? No, he's going to go on the attack. He's going to look to the inside, but he's not close enough. So just showing himself in the mirrors for now.
And that's a good strategy there for him, but I would be a little bit cautious about trying to show my nose into turn one if it would actually send me offline a little bit. This is the corner you want to get the good run out of. Turn three, that is where you need to absolutely maximize your speed to set yourself up down into turn five. As you said, Joe, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track.
Gets another good run, and once again, just kind of pokes himself out to the side, just barely, to make sure that Rafael has the hint that he is there and ready to snatch up that spot if there's any little slip up. But one thing, speaking of which, I was just about to say that it's hard to find any mistakes for our leaders, but Drawhorn looked like he got a bit of that arrow wash through turn 6 and couldn't make the apex.
Yeah, he found himself offline a little bit. A slow corner there, turn 6, coming under the Corvette bridge, and he's going to lose about 0.2 of a second now as he runs. Sits about 6.5 behind Amarim. We're going to check a little bit farther back in the field. Geralp here trying to work his way forward on P12. That's Patty Patterson right ahead of him. Patterson having a good day, up 13 positions.
Yeah, definitely one of our hard chargers, but not the most gained by any stretch at this point. And of course, he could lose another if Orgun thinks he's got a good run here pretty soon. There's only about 0.3 between them. You can see how little difference there is. And we're jumping back to the number 13 of Albano, not far back. In fact, it's kind of two pairs that are just about to become a quartet because he's chasing Nistor, but Nistor is only about half a second back himself from Patterson and Geralp.
Yeah, and so if he's able to close that down, get in under a second, Joe, that means that this battle is going to fully find itself playing out, as it will be 4 cars within the draft, and that is going to be a huge, huge help to Albano. That'll be a triple draft up in front of him, and he'll really be able to close in. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to maybe get a 2-for-1 going down into 5, but we've got to focus in here on James Huth. The battle for P9 with Dave Craig continuing to fight on.
Had a little look, but decided to back out of it by the time they got up to turn 1. So Craig will hold on to 9th place right now. That could depend on whether or not he gets another good exit here out of turn 3, though, because Huth could get himself enough of a launch, and it does look decent for that 24 car that he could have a go at him down into turn 5. Let's see what the Moraine sweep holds for the pair of them this time as they approach the braking downhill into the left-hander of 5. It's good on braking for Huth, but he's not close enough.
Yeah, not really able to get that there. And I think for Huth, he's just waiting for his opportunity, waiting for the prime moment to strike. And so that is really and truly what he's trying to do here at this point. He doesn't want to force the issue. They do have to be a little bit careful. They're losing a little bit of time to Ed Eisenring up ahead of him.
So we come back to Nistor. There was either a defense or an attack there from Geralt. Hard to tell because looks like Mark has caught up to him, but nobody's going to change positions. Now, I was looking at the timing screens, and one thing that really struck me, Patterson at the front of this train is 19 seconds behind the next car. I wonder if he was involved in or had to kind of tiptoe his way around one of those first 2 accidents on lap 1, and that maybe cost him a lot of time and helped him gain a lot of those positions. But we do have our overhead track map that really helps kind of show how things have been spread out. And there you see that number 29. Look at the distance up to the 95 of Cyphers.
Yeah, that's almost an entire straight there for Patty Patterson, and I've got to agree with you, Joe. I think that is the only reason, or the primary reason, why he is so far back here at this point. So probably out of the realm of possibility that he's going to be able to catch up to Derek Cyphers, but we will have to see what plays itself out over the course of this running.
Yeah, I was having a little look back. He did have to kind of tiptoe his way past the first incident in lap 1. And actually, interestingly, he had a little bit of contact. And yeah, he got held up in the second one as well, it looks like. So he kind of got a double whammy on that one. Huth, though, look at this, is suddenly ahead of Craig. And did that happen in turn 1 as I was distracted? Indeed, it did. He managed to slipstream by him.
Good slipstream pass there for him. He's going to have to see if he's able to get his way up ahead. Leif Peterson now trying to work on the back of Nicky Chan. And this is a little bit of a fall here. Nicky was doing very, very well. Remember, up and challenging for those top 3 here at this point. But he now finds himself a little bit farther back, battling for P5.
He's only lost 1 position, though. So the 000 is still sitting pretty. But he hasn't been able to keep up with Chris Pies. Whatever was plaguing Pies up there, it seems to have abated because it's only about 3 seconds back from Trey Drawhorn. So he's got his pace somewhat returning, it appears. Meanwhile, Leif Peterson on screen, kind of sandwiched between Chan as well as Siddall there in the number 55 as they come out of the carousel towards the kink.
Yeah, working their way through here. Siddall really hoping that this battle is going to play itself out a little bit more in front of him between Peterson and Chan. Let's see what they are able to do. I don't think Leif is close enough to get a move on Nicky down into Canada corner, and indeed he's going to stick behind there. A little bit of an earlier turn in for Chan, and that's going to cost him just about a half a tenth there on the corner exit.
Up through Bill Mitchell Bend. Leif still within range. As long as he gets himself a good run somewhere, you could definitely try and give it a go here and get past Nicky Chan. This one looks pretty decent to me as we ride on the rear bumper of the 000, and Peterson starts to gain, filling up more and more of our screen here in the sunset in Wisconsin. And no, he's not quite close enough now that they get to the braking here for turn 1. So wasn't meant to be this time by, but we still have half of the race and more to go.
Yes, we do, and I do think there that was a little bit of a lift for Leif Peterson coming down the line. He didn't necessarily want to try to get as close as he could. We're going to follow back, though, in that big battle that we were focusing on a little bit earlier. Gabriel Albano trying to calm hump behind Geralp right now. Geralp's lost a little bit of touch with Patty Patterson up in front of him, but still only about a second in between them, so still room to play.
Ooh, he was all the way up to the pit wall there, and was trying to make sure he was extra defensive on Albano, forcing all the pit crew members to pull their timing boards off the wall there as we ride with Patterson just in front of them. He's sizing up Mark Nistor, wants to try and get that spot right back now that he's lost it from the number 37. I'm not thinking it's going to be happening here based on the distance he's lost on this run.
No, he's lost a lot there. He's about 0.5 of a second behind. You really need to be within about 0.3 of a second to make that work going down into the corner. He's going to try to make up a little bit. Let's stay on board here as they're actually, let's flick around a little bit through the field right now as this is that battle that we follow up ahead. Nicky Chan, Leif Peterson, and Matthew Sedal as they continue to try to work their way up ahead.
Chan's still leading the way, hasn't succumbed to Peterson or Sedal quite yet. So great job on the defense for now. But Peterson is becoming quite the nuisance to the 000. So he's really got to mind his P's and Q's so that he doesn't make any sort of slip up and open the door for that 913 car like that, putting wheels off, coming off the final turn. Here comes Leif Peterson. Don't think he's going to be waiting this time, and Chan knows it. He immediately goes defensive down to the inside, but I'm not sure there's much that can stop Leif.
I don't think there is either. He's going to have to go the long way around, but that can oftentimes be the momentum line around the corner. But late on the binders is Nicky Chan. He's going to hold on to that position.
Oh, that compromise line was horrible for Peterson. Here comes Sedal. He gets to the inside off the corner and down into turn 3. He is through into 5th place, but the fight's not over. Peterson switches back, and now he's got the toe.
And again, that is in that area where you don't really want to make a pass into 3 for that reason, but that looked like a little bit of a lift there from the 913 of Leif Peterson. I think he's relatively content here as that's going to be a defensive line from Sedal and no real attack there from Peterson, but I'd argue, Joe, he had the run if he wanted it.
And we saw Leif do that with Nicky Chan on the previous lap as well. So I'm with you. I think this might be intentional from him. Just try and save some fuel, especially if he thinks the fight's not really on and it's going to cost him time. Geralp has pitted in, and so has Patterson. Let me make sure that this is them driving the cars in. Yes, it is. Okay. Because I was a bit worried. I was hoping that we didn't have some sort of accident and they both towed.
No, I think this is the opening of the pit window, potentially, Joe. It's a little bit on the early side, but they should be able to make it work and should be able to come to the end here and get to the end with a pit stop here just before the halfway mark.
Race control had some peace and quiet for a while, but now they've had to get off their laurels for a bit because Garrett Taylor has been given a black flag. Not sure what the incident was, but the 529 has been deemed naughty this Christmas season, so he's going to have to come in and take his lump of coal.
Yes, he is. So he's going to have to come in and serve that penalty. We keep our eyes fixed on this ever-intriguing battle. Leif Peterson now back at the Catbird's position. I wonder if we're going to see Leif maybe decide to come in, take a little bit of a late pit stop here now that he's able to save fuel behind both Sedal and Nicky Chan.
I got to think that's probably going to be the ploy, but I would think he'd want to be doing it every single lap because just lifting and coasting a lap here and a lap there wouldn't really do it quite as much. It won't save you enough, especially on a track as long as this one. It won't get you a full lap, but it'll at least get you maybe a shorter pit stop. We'll see how it all shakes out once they do come in, which might not be for another 15 minutes here. They're all coming down the Moraine sweep, and was that lap traffic? Yes, that's Rositas in front of them, so they could have a little bit of a hiccup here unless Liam is quickly out of the way.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he is going to be able to do that, though. Little bit of a bad run there through the corner for Nicky Chan. That's going to open up the door here for Peterson.
That's it all, actually. That's going to get overtaken out through turn 6. Peterson is now past. He had Arthur Chan starting to approach, so maybe he didn't want to sit around and be held up anymore by Matthew. So back up into 5th position for the 913, at least for now. We ride on board with Arthur Chan as he comes out of the hurry downs.
Yes, we do, as Chan here is going to be the latest to join into this battle. He's going to be able to get a nice little bit of the slipstream here off the back of Matthew Sadal. Sadal, though, only sits about 4/10 of a second, 4.5 of a second behind Leif Peterson. Let's see if he's able to close in. Crucially, though, Nicky Chan, as a result of that battling, he now finds himself a full 1.5 seconds ahead, so he's got some clean air to work with.
Well, that's exactly what the doctor ordered. So the 000 kind of stretching his legs out now. He's able to relax and focus on what he's doing rather than what his rivals are as they crest through Bill Mitchell Bend and come around the final corner to climb the hill once again. Everybody trying to stay out of that grass. We've already seen how much it can hurt you on this run, but Arthur Chan is going to be the one to bite. He ducks into pit lane.
I'm a little bit surprised to see that, but at the same time, Arthur was running in clean air for the majority of the race, so maybe just used a little bit of fuel saving, or didn't use a little bit of fuel saving there and had to come on in as a result of not being able to save all that much.
It's no wonder that Nicky Chan's able to push here, because if you're struggling to consistently go faster, you need to know how to find another last tenth off of your lap time, and do that by joining our very own physicist, Nicky Chan, to learn all about driving technique, car setup, telemetry analysis, and more via YouTube videos on lasttenth.com. Nicky is also available for one-on-one coaching and custom setup sessions. Contact him on Discord for a trial session now so you can squeeze that last tenth off of your lap time. Last tenth, better car, better driver. So he carries on in that 4th place position. Leif Peterson now about 1.2 seconds back, with only Sadal behind him chasing instead of Arthur Chan now that he has pitted. In fact, Arthur is the highest car to have pitted with a scheduled stop, and 14th position. So we look behind him to Julian Velez, who is up 18 spots. That's James Tack, up 20 positions.
That is very, very impressive there from James. And just for our viewers wondering about the pit stop time, it looks like it's going to be about 18 to 19 seconds. So that's about the good margin here that you want to be in if you come down into pit lane. Anything longer than that, you've had a little bit of a problem. Anything shorter than that, well, we may start to worry a little bit about fuel consumption. But I will say Enrico Gregorato last night was able to make a 17.2 pit stop work, although he was running on fumes at the end.
We got a very strange incident. Chris Braun came in and pit, pulled out of his pit stall, reversed back into it, and took another stop or something. He's back out, but it was a very long run in pit lane, 1:21, whereas you're looking for a standard stop being about 50 seconds. I've never seen something like that. I don't know what he was doing.
I wonder if there was maybe a problem with the fuel calculation, something like that. That's about the only thing I can think of that would put him back like that, Joe.
Yeah, because he took tires, from what I could tell, the first time into his pit stall. Maybe he forgot to check the fuel and caught it on his way out. If so, that was great heads up by him, but unfortunately that it cost him so much time. You can see he's now running 26. I think your prediction before about not continuing his pattern is becoming more and more likely to be true here, because I don't see how he could gain enough spots to get up to 9th with that sort of problem added on to his penalty he had to serve.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the car language there as it comes through the corner, he is really and truly pushing here. He is trying to get everything he can. Look how much he's taking there on corner exit coming out of turn 8. He is driving the wheels off of that car, but unfortunately finding himself that back down in the order in 26th. As you said, he has got a lot of work to do to try to salvage some sort of good results here today.
Yeah, speaking of salvaging a result, Liam Routzidis, one of those starting from 5th, but at least he's doing it in style, because he's got that Six Sigma rig that he's been racing all season long. His flannel PJs notwithstanding. Can't say much for the style of those, but at least he's comfortable both in the rig and in the pants here as the Upper Canada driver takes it through Bill Mitchell Bend to complete another lap, sitting 26 spots. As I mentioned, started from 5th, but remember, he was one of the ones that caused that big wreck there through the kink, so he really has been having a bit of a bad day.
Yeah, he certainly has. We do have a couple other takers down into pit lane here at this point, Joe, as it looks like Nicky Chan and James Huth are going to be the two latest to call it down in and take their stop.
All right, so those two looking for service. This will actually be a good comparison. Arthur Chan was, about 2 or 3 seconds behind Nicky Chan when Arthur pitted. So this will give us a frame of reference on if he's gained at all with his pit stop of about 19.5 seconds. This is Rafael Amorim, though, down into turn 5. It's on our screens right now. And I said it was close to 20 minutes to go before the sun crests below the trees. It looks to me like it is just about now. So I was about 5 minutes too late there on my call on that one, as it seems like we have mostly shadows around the circuit. Drawhorn has apparently fell out of the slipstream, and in fact, he just about fell off the track there coming around turn 7. He's a full 4.5 seconds behind Amorim now that Rafael's been able to shake that draft.
Well, and look here at Chris Pies. Now, his last lap wasn't exactly great as he ran. He ran a 2:05.3 compared to Drawhorn's 2:04.4, but that gap's holding steady at about 2.5 seconds here at this point. And if our theory was correct, Joe, that Chris Pies is maybe saving his stuff here for the end of the race, that is certainly within striking distance here with halfway to go.
By the way, Nicky Chan stopped a 20.3 in his pit stall, about a second slower than Arthur Chan. And Arthur is about 2.3 seconds behind Nicky. So he should have theoretically gained some time, but without knowing the exact numbers before the pit stop, hard to say for now. Regardless, they will appear to stay in position unless those who are also battling with them, guys like Leif Peterson, manage to jump both of them. Who else is it? Oh, is this our leader? That is indeed our leader in pit lane, just as a couple lap drivers also pit in front of him.
All right, looks like those lap drivers aren't going to slow him down at all, which is a good thing. He definitely needed to be able to do that, and that's going to give lead of the race over here to Trey Drawhorn. But Drawhorn now, in turn, is going to have a little bit of lap traffic to deal with.
Yeah, so maybe that's the reason for the call there, that Amorim thought he was going to be slowed up by catching some of these lapped cars. Drawhorn taking the alternate decision strategy-wise, maybe hoping he won't be held up as much, because typically going longer in GT3 cars does mean, at least in iRacing, that you'll be able to have a little bit faster of a stint. Meanwhile, man, look at him really hustle that thing, though. He gave less than an inch off of that curbing to the gravel.
He knows this is a little bit of push time here for him. And remember, I mentioned that Nicky Chan was continuing to close in a little, or Chris Pies was beginning to close in a little bit more here. It looks like he's been able to cut that gap down to about 1.7 seconds.
Oh, remember how I said Leif Peterson could maybe try to jump Nicky Chan? That's exactly what he did. In fact, by a good margin, 2 seconds faster in his pit stall, means that he comes out well clear of the 000. Nicely done by the 913 to get himself that track position.
Very nicely done indeed, and that's just that pit strategy coming out to play here at this point. Also looks like Nistor, Albano, and Nelson are going to be coming in and out of pit lane here at this point. Now, Drawhorn's going to get a little bit of an advantage here as we watch him on the screen. He was able to pick up a little bit of that draft off of Garrett Taylor coming down through Canada Corner. Now, this is where he's going to get slowed down. Coming through Bill Mitchell Bend, he's going to have to back up his braking zone here a little bit, and that's going to be a little bit of that give and take of dealing with some of the lap traffic.
Remember, Taylor was one of those that was given a black flag earlier, hence why he is as far behind as he is, and Drawhorn will now pit. Pies will follow him in. Wow, and Chris was really pushing it. The car squirming under the brakes to try and get down to the pit speed limits. It all pits in, and Eisenring carries on. Only one of our top 5 here that is going to continue into lap 19. We're still waiting on Tack and Velez to take their stops, but they're just around the top 10. They're a little ways back. Otherwise, all but one of our leaders have now taken stops.
Yes, they have, as we take a look back here on board with Ed Nelson in the 959, currently trying to close down a little bit on Patty Patterson. That battle not letting itself up. He's also got to look out from behind him because he still has Oregon Geralp behind him.
Amorim's now going by the pit exit as Drawhorn is exiting himself, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any gain for the 395. He will return just shy of about 5 seconds behind Rafael Amorim, unfortunately. So didn't quite gain him what he needed to get back into the hunt here. So Eisenring with the clear track in front of him, going to try and run as far as he can and make use of nothing but clear skies. Let's see, do we get everybody? Yeah, everybody else has pit in from there. So the only driver in the whole field that is going to make it 19 laps before needing to come in for some fuel in that orange 929 machine. Down through the kink he goes, thankfully now smoothed out by iRacing and not as treacherous as it once was, and looks to spot his brake marker into Canada corner.
Here he comes, bringing it around. Looks like a good line there for Eisenring. He's going to bring it out of the corner, take just that perfect amount of curb on the exit as he comes. I've got to think here at this point, Joe, he's going to be pulling down into pit lane. There's no way he's got another lap of fuel on that car.
It'd be mighty impressive, the pace he's been running, if he does go another one. Jonathan Waltman, by the way, is the latest retirement from the race. We're down to only 30 cars left, and as we said, Eisenring can't go around one more time. Amorim will now inherit the lead as we take a look at Ed Nelson in 15th. This is a battle with Geralp for that P15 spot. Patterson in front of them is trying and hoping that they fight more so that he can peel away from the pair of them and get a little bit more comfortable down the hill and into the braking of turn 8. Nelson stays safe and retains P15.
Yeah, he's going to hold on to it here at this point, and now that that gap's about 0.5 of a second, I don't think Geralp's going to be able to close in fully. I don't think he's going to be able to get a move done down into Canada corner, but that doesn't mean he can't apply a little bit of pressure, especially with a little bit of a bobble like that for Ed Nelson coming off the corner.
This has been a good race for Eisenring. I was just watching to see how many positions he's going to lose. He's only going to fall down to 7th here, which is right about where he started. Not bad. Sure, he would have liked to gain a bit more. And in fact, Arthur Chan's going to hope to demote him at least one as he's going to get to the inside as they come immediately out of the pit stop and into a battle. The inside will give him a nose ahead, but it's not done yet as it's a drag race down the Moraine sweep.
Yes, it is side by side here. No draft really coming into play for either driver. Eisenring trying to hold this out as they go. Chan on the outside, Eisenring down to the inside. It looks like Eisenring was earlier on the binders, and that's going to be Arthur Chan around the outside.
So Arthur Chan now up to 7th, Eisenring down to 8th, unfortunately. We've also lost Robert Rattray. So now 29 cars still running out of 38 starters. Not too bad. Could have been a lot worse considering how many took damage at the very first lap of this race. 20 minutes left to go. And that means roughly 10 laps left for our drivers. And you can see how much more sparse it does, in fact, look at this stage with a lot of big gaps out there on the track.
Yeah, it's certainly starting to separate out here a little bit. And Joe, this is kind of a little bit of maybe what we thought when you just look at Road America as a whole. Plenty of places to make a little bit of a mistake here and get those gaps to form out. But I'm a little bit surprised that we're not seeing closer running up and down through the field. And frankly, I do kind of blame that big pileup that we had. I think if we didn't have that happening, we would certainly see a lot more close battles.
Yeah, I would imagine so. One of the drivers that's taken the most advantage of those accidents at the start was James Tack. He went from 35th to 19th now that the pit stops are done. 721 is not completely clear. He's got the Les behind him, so that could yet still be a battle between them. As we watch the run down towards Canada corner here, the number 13 trying to run away from Geralt while catching up to Patterson. In fact, that's exactly what he's been doing, because the 734 was much closer to Gabriel last we looked, and now Patterson is the one that's closer to that 13 car.
Yeah, starting to close in a little bit as they go, but let's have to see here as Albano starting to put some pressure to the back right now. He's only about 0.5 of a second behind. Let's see if they're able to make this work.
Going to have a nice slipstream up the main straight, but Albano's not quite close enough right now. Look at those beautiful Wisconsin skies just flanking the cars above them as we come through turn 1. That was a nice little gain from Gabriel once again. He's within 0.3 of a second, and he's mighty under the brakes there for turn 3, but he needs to be good on the gas off the corner to get the launch here. Doesn't look like that's the case, unfortunately. He falls away from Patty.
Yeah, he's just not going to be close enough here to be able to get that move to work. He's still going to be able to use the slipstream a little bit to keep himself close, but just not quite where he wants to be at this point. And with only about 15 minutes left, time is starting to run out. Let's take a look here at Ed Eisenring, though. He's a lot closer to Arthur Chan up in front of him.
Yeah, he's going to want to try and get that back, no doubt. Let's see if he can do that in these dying stages of the race. The final quarter now that we've entered, 15 minutes left to go. And who's got the better speed here? Who's got the cleaner car coming down the straights, considering how much contact we've seen in the fields on the first few laps? Oh, it's a little off the apex there for Eisenring, and he's going to pay for it all the way up to the start-finish line.
Yeah, he is. He's just not going to be able to get that run that he wants to on Arthur Chan. Still plenty of time to recover here. If he can get a good run into 1 and down in through 3, that could be the response he needs. And just the benefit of that draft, Joe, 0.4 of a second, all that's separating.
As they come up to the braking into turn 3. Wow, look at him gain coming down to the apex. This time, though, he nails that exit. Eisenring is there. That orange and black number 929 could have a great attempt at the 50 if he feels like he fancies it. And staying defensive, Arthur Chan doesn't feel completely safe. He's going to hold the middle of the track under braking through turn 5. Eisenring is not able to get the overlap.
No, he's not able to get it there, and I think that's just a little bit of caution creeping into Ed Eisenring's driving there as they go. He doesn't want to throw this all away, and he's also got to worry about the fact that James Huth only sits about 2 seconds behind him, and if they get locked into a fierce side-by-side battle for multiple corners, that's going to bring Huth right into the battle.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So Eisenring's got to be decisive here. He's got to try and make that pass without fooling around here with Arthur Chan. It might be just for 7th, but as we've seen, it's hard to find that track position just because of the skills of these drivers at this pro level. Remember, this is the top of the 4 classes that we cover here on Podium for the PCA. And this really is the cream of the crop. So you get 1 spot within the top 10, that is an accomplishment.
Yeah, it certainly is, Joe. If you're able to hold on to those top 10 positions, it is a big, big feather in your cap as we continue to ride on board there with the 929 of Eisenring, trying to see if he's able to get his way around. He's going to close in a little bit on the back of Chan right now. Let's see if he's able to get a better run here. I think he's going to have to start using muscle. Chan certainly thinks that he's got something to worry about as he goes defensive down the main straightaway.
That's the second time we've seen him give that defensive fade, but the second time again that he didn't wind up with an overlap at the end of the straight. Not sure if Ed's dealing with any sort of little bits of damage, maybe on the under tray or something that's hurting his top end, but would have thought he'd have an easier time. Maybe he's just lifting or something. This time, he is definitely there. He's within a car length off the exit. Surely he should be close enough.
Yeah, I've got to think he's going to be here. Chan's going to go defensive as they come down into turn 5. Eisenring didn't stay behind there in the draft. That could have cost him. Maybe looking at here a little bit of an over-under. Not quite close enough.
Only biding his time. He's showing a lot of patience here. Perhaps he saw the race last night, because we did mention, DJ, that one of the things that iRacing updated was the way that the dynamic track works. And offline, on corners, especially late in the race, tends to have even less grip than before, both because of the marbles and because of the track polish on the racing line. So maybe Ed is thinking, you know what, I need a real slam dunk on this one.
Yeah, I certainly think he could be worried about that and trying to go. I'll tell you who also wants one here. That's Gabriel Albano trying to come up behind Patty Patterson. It's going to be the same story with different drivers. Albano just not able to make that move work.
Not this time, at least, but he hangs tight. Could be trying to get a better run himself. Let's stay here, but just an update in case you're curious. Amram and Drawhorn about 5.5 seconds apart. Amram still your leader. It's been unfortunately stuck at that distance for much of this post pit stops portion of the race. Albano down through the carousel, staying within a couple car lengths of Patterson, but looking like he is indeed struggling with the aero wash coming off of that purple car.
Yeah, looks like he's struggling with it a little bit there, coming down through the kink. He's going to try to hold in behind here. I don't think he's going to be close enough to go down into Canada corner unless he sends an almighty send. He's going to be able to close in a little bit on the back of Patty, but not able to make that move here quite yet.
By the way, we've also lost the 190 of Kostanak. So another retirement. We are up to 10 cars having retired in this race, unfortunately. On to the main stretch. Albano again doesn't seem to quite be as close as he needs to be. So not expecting the move here unless he's really going to surprise us. I can tell you that Eisenring and Chan got very close for that 7th spot down into turn 5, but no change there either. It was within about 1/10 of a second. Ed still applying a lot of pressure like we're seeing Albano do here. Down into turn 3 once again. Here we go. Oh, this is nice and close. Let's see, Gabriel. Oh yeah, he's got a huge toe here.
Yeah, this is massive. He's only about 1/10.5 behind. Maybe feathered the throttle there just a little bit to try to get it. He's going to get the look down to the inside on Patty Patterson. Trying to flirt with the grass there down on the inside as this corner comes down the hill, and it looks like that's move done for Albano.
Oh, he goes a little bit wide, but he holds on to it. Patty spies a chance to maybe fight back, but no. Looks like Gabriel had enough of being part of the Patty wagon, and he is now up into 13th.
Yes, indeed, he does. That was a great little pun there, by the way, Joe. I fully approve of that.
Thank you.
Albano is now going to be able to go. The question here is going to be if he's going to be able to streak off into the distance a little bit. They've got about 14 seconds up the run to Nistor to try to close in on him. Probably not going to get that by the end of the race, but if Albano is just able to stretch this out, get a little bit of breathing room, that'll be good news for him.
Yeah, this is where he's got to put his foot down for sure so that he doesn't lose it right back. Also, Leif Peterson and Matthew Siddall has suddenly made some excitement in the top 5. We got a battle going for 4th place. That's Leif just in front of us, and we're on board with Matthew in the 55.
Yeah, here goes Siddall trying to be able to close in. Looks like that's not nearly as good of a run as he would hope for, but he's still going to be able to close in here a little bit on the back of Peterson. Peterson doing a little bit of moving and shaking here, coming down through the Moraine sweep, trying to break that draft as much as possible.
It's been looking like it's been a game of patience today in these fights within the top 10. Drivers really having to work to try and get those spots. And when they do, they are very glad to get it and try to stretch away as fast as they can. As we continue to watch Siddall and Peterson battle for 4th position down through turn 7. Matthew's going to have to get just a little bit closer. And he's only got about 8 minutes. That tells me we got about, this is going to be about 4 laps to go.
Yeah, not a whole lot of time here left for these drivers if they want to try to be able to make that move. And so I think that's going to increase the pressure here a little bit, Joe. And I think for a lot of these drivers, they've been being patient, holding back, not being too aggressive on their way forward. And at this point, it's now time to go for broke. If you're within about 0.5 of a second, go for that move.
Yeah, I see Amram coming up to the line now. So it's going to be 4 laps to go as he crosses. Peterson losing a little time here through the latter half of the course. Siddall knows it. He can see himself gaining. Oh, and this is exactly where he wants to be, right behind him. Coming onto the main straight. He tries to get on the throttle a little too hard, though, and dips his tires in the grass.
Yeah, and Peterson's still weaving a little bit, trying to be defensive as we check a little bit farther back in the field. This is Eisenring. Eisenring in counter to Siddall. Looks like he's been able to get a better run there off of that final corner.
He's got a good shot here. Let's see if Arthur Chan decides to go defensive. He does indeed, holds the inside line. Eisenring round the outside. He's going to stay off the racing line, and it does not provide the grip that he hoped for, as we expected. He stays close, tucked underneath the rear wing of the number 50. Maybe looking for a better launch now, coming off of turn 3, and he's got it. They head down the Moraine sweep with Arthur towing Ed.
0.2 of a second and dropping here, Joe. It's down to 1/10.5 as they bring their way down under the Sargento Bridge. It looks like Chan's going to block off that defensive line, but here comes the 929.
Eisenring around the outside through turn 5, but he gets fed out, and that's not going to give him the position. Arthur retains P7, and behind them, watch out, here comes James Huth, like we were talking about earlier. He gained a ton just through that one corner.
Yes, he did. Huth is now only about 1.1 seconds behind. This is what I was talking about. This is the concern. If you're not able to get that move done decisively, having another driver come up behind you like this, Huth can very easily make this a 3-car scrap.
And Ed's a smart driver, too. I think he knows the situation on this one. Probably just glancing in those mirrors every once in a while looks like Patterson and Geralt now going to go at it. Patterson gets to the inside of Albano down into turn 5. And Gabriel has to hand the position back after he got it just about 2 laps ago.
Oh, that's not going to be good news there for him, but he certainly knows he has the speed. And don't look now at this battle, but I believe that could be, no, excuse me, that is Oregon Geralt coming up into the close in this. So we've got another 3-car battle starting to play itself out.
Yeah, it kind of faded for a moment there, DJ, but now suddenly in these latter laps of the race, it's just suddenly come alive again as these battles have been a slow burn. Oh, and Eisenring's lost to Huth. What happened to Eisenring here? Did he go off track in the final corner?
He must have, Joe. I didn't have my eyes on it on the screen. I'll have to go back and take a look at it. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. Huth able to get on by.
Yeah, I went back and looked myself. He just had a small bobble, went off course, and Huth said, thanks, I'll take that one, and is now trying to run away. So here we've got Arthur Chan and Eisenring going side by side. This was the battle that we watched a little bit earlier, and he got fed out, and then it was out of the final corner where Eisenring went completely off course and had to give over to Huth. So we come back live. And now we are on the fight between Siddall and Peterson.
Yes, we are. This is the battle for P4 right now. Unlike these other battles right now, it doesn't look like Nicky Chan's really going to be able to close in on the back of this here for the moment, as it is about 3.2 seconds behind them.
Now, I wonder if we're going to get some drivers in for the... Oh, and here's the pass for Huth. Wow, yeah, he had a front row seat to that one. And as soon as it happened, he snatches it up. I was going to say, I wonder if we're going to have some drivers having to do some drive-through penalties for too many incidents. Remember, it's only 11, and then they're given a drive-through penalty automatically by iRacing. I do see Blake Lair has one right now, and Joe Stifle does as well. So I wonder if that is them just racking up too many of them.
Yeah, it could be. We've talked about that. We talked about that a little bit more last night, Joe, in the course of these drivers getting up to that 11 incident point. And if you're running high here at this point, you've got to be a little bit careful. You've got to be a little bit trepidatious, and that's going to change your driving style. You're not going to put the car nearly as aggressively as you would at other parts of the track.
Two drivers that do have to stay away from the aggression is Drawhorn and Peterson, both at 9 incidents. So 2 off tracks, and they're going to be sent through pit lane. A spin, they'll be sent through pit lane. Contact with another car, they'll be sent through pit lane. It is not going to be fun. That'll hurt a lot considering they're so close to the podium. One is even on. Chris Braun, in the meantime, all right, where did he get up to here? He is up to 19th. Well, there's your 9. Just has an extra digit on it.
I was thinking the exact same thing there, but although the way he's chasing down here on Garrett Taylor, he may be able to break that 9 streak and get up to P18.
Something about the number 9 this time. We'll have to ask Chris if that has any special meaning for him or not. I know it's not intentional, but this is bizarre. This in Series 9 that he's been able to do this so many different times, depending on if he can get Garrett Taylor, and that could finally break it for him in some form or fashion. But this man, Rafael Amorim, has half a lap, less than half a lap really, and he'll be taking the white flag and being told there is just 1 to go.
And that'll be good news for Amorim. He's got about a 7-second lead over Trey Drawhorn. He can probably back it off a little bit here at this point, drive this a little bit more cautiously, a little bit more slowly, and he'll be able to be in good position here as he comes through Bill Mitchell Bend and into the final corner here to take that white flag.
Amorim started from 4th position. Remember, he had a very truncated qualifying in his case, and shot up the order, and then once he was out on track, seemed like he had found his sea legs and jumped up to the lead and didn't look back from there. In fact, he only has 2 incidents, so it's not that he's been wild and trying to push the limits too hard and learn the track as he goes. He's been both clean and fast. It's just, it always seems a little unfair when you get a driver that can do stuff like that.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? It takes you out of it a little bit, and as another driver, you just get a little bit demoralized and sort of go, oh, come on.
What do I got to do to beat this guy? Chris Pies, though, he's only 2 seconds behind Drawhorn. He'll have to be a little closer to probably try and make a move on Trey there, especially considering that Trey is so close on incidents. He could pressurize him into having to race safer. But it's too little too late for the 14 who started on pole and then gave up the lead early on and didn't quite have the pace to keep up with those leaders. Even still, I think a podium will be appreciated by Chris Pies, especially because he came in 2nd in points. So with Braun as far down as he is, this works out very well for the 14. In fact, there's a good chance he might be able to take the points lead because of this. Well, regardless, as we ride on board with Chris Braun, he's still in 19th, but that is Taylor right in front of him. He could take this position, finally have something other than a 9 or a 1 on his name. There you go. There's the numbers. He's had 9s and 1s this whole Series 9 for his finishes. But Rafael Amorim is the one that's going to take that number 1 this time as he comes out of the final corner. The 32 came in and trounced the fields with a gap of more than 7 seconds at the finish line. Rafael Amorim is your Pro Class winner.
An absolutely commanding drive here from Amorim. Very, very impressive stuff for that plaid number 32. He is going to be a happy camper tonight, as is, I think, Trey Drawhorn, who's able to cross over the line in P2.
So Trey holds out. Chris Pies from pole to 3rd. Peterson, not quite there. He'll get 4th, but he held off Matthew Siddall. Remember, he was pressurizing him for much of the race. Arthur Chan is going to get 7th and gain 5. That is a nice job by him. James Huth up 6 as well. How about Mark Nistor, though, who is up 15 positions, and Albano up 17. So those two really making sure to keep the car safe and whole and just mind themselves on the early dramas of this race. Where is Braun? He's up to 18th. He's looks like he might actually break it in the end. He got by Taylor when we weren't looking.
Yeah, able to sneak on by there into 18th. I think that may have been going down through into turn 8, but he'll be pretty happy there, I think, to at least be able to gain 1 position on the day, although a very, very tough running for, we believe, your former points leader.
Yeah, that he before this had a drop week of about 236, so he still will score that, but that leaves plenty of margin for Pies to be able to get enough points to overhaul him. Here is behind him, actually. Garrett Taylor's going to come into pit lane. That's interesting. as that means we have all of 22 drivers that are going to finish on the lead lap, and that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to Road America. The Pro Class this evening gave us some spills at the start, but then thrills kept us enthralled all the way through. But Rafael Amorim basically darted his way to the front and then was unchallenged for most of the second half of the race. Trey Drawhorn from the front row to second place is going to be happy to gain those points, and Christopher Pies might just be our new points leader after going from pole to third here today. Leif Peterson finished fourth, and Matthew Siddall was P5. Nicky Chan finished sixth after starting from third. A little bit of a drop back for him. Arthur Chan, up 5 to finish seventh, was ahead of James Huth, who finished eighth. Eisenring was P9 instead of Chris Braun today, and Derek Cyphers rounds out your top 10. We'll cycle through the rest of the field as we saw quite a few retirements there throughout today's race. But I do believe we have Rafael ready to talk to us, and I am curious about how much practice exactly he had, because Rafael, we saw that you came in a little late in qualifying, and you were a little bit down the field, but it didn't take you long to get your way to the front. How much practice did you have coming into this one?
A little bit, but it feels like it all started from scratch with so many changes in the track and the tires and everything. But this was a lot of fun. I didn't have a good quality. I made a few mistakes and got a few off tracks, but I kind of got lucky with like Trey and Chris battling and some other guys, and was just there to seize an opportunity.
Yeah, after watching last night, I'm sure there was a bit of biting fingernails, hoping that iRacing would get some fixes with the patch in today. Were you kind of wiping your brow after that happened?
Well, I was sort of prepared for the worst. I had practice. The actual bumpy track was still fun, but it was a tough one. So I knew consistency was going to be key, and that's what I tried to practice. And with the updated track, it just made it a bit easier just to be consistent and hit my lines and my points.
Well, for some of those drivers up at the front of the points, it's been quite up and down. Obviously, you had a bad time at Mosport and had to miss it at Indy Road. But considering you seem to be holding your own the times that you do show up, where do you anticipate seeing yourself finishing those points?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm going to miss the next one as well. I'm going to make Daytona the last one. So I probably won't be, I don't expect to be in the top 10 or anything like that. But still a lot of fun. Still looking forward to battling out, and I hope you can come back for Daytona.
We've been making it interesting for the drivers when you do show up, especially up there at the point. Congratulations on the win, and can't wait to see you back in Florida.
Looking forward to it.
Rafael Amorim, your winner here today, as DJ is caught up with Trey Drawhorn, who just couldn't quite keep pace with him.
Yeah, Trey looked like out there just not enough speed to be able to close down on Rafael Amorim, but great battle there at the beginning of the race for sure.
Yeah. I just tried to stay in draft, and I just made a couple of simple mistakes. Just caused me to get out of draft, and that was basically it.
Well, in terms of watching that gap between yourself and Chris Pies as the race went along, how much were you keeping an eye on that? As we know, Chris is an incredibly quick driver, and how much were you just kind of running your own race near the end?
I kind of checked it every lap, like at the end of the lap, trying to make sure I wasn't losing any like space between us. But I was just running my race, trying to make sure I wasn't running too wide, or making some simple stupid mistakes. But yeah.
Well, in terms of needing to not run wide and not make mistakes, we head to the Red Bull Ring next time out. A pretty tricky circuit there in terms of trying to keep things together. Very easy to get off into that runoff there. How do you like your chances?
I mean, that track is awesome. It's awesome but hard. I'll definitely have to practice, but I think that will make for a lot of back and forth, really, really competitive racing there. So I'm pretty excited. Hopefully to get a podium or maybe even a top 5.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world, Trey. But as for today, who makes this possible for you?
By far, you guys, my family, everyone who's watching, everyone who watches these races, and just like, there's just so many people that have helped me grow as a person. But yeah, those are just some of the few. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. That was Trey Drawhorn, your second place finisher here today. And Joe, I believe you've been able to catch up with P3, Mr. Chris Pies.
Indeed. And Chris, you were fast over a single lap, but couldn't seem to keep it up over the course of the race. What do you think made the difference between the pole and only managing third today?
Yeah, it was. A third is a great finish. I can't knock that, but I was hoping for something maybe a little bit higher. But I'm not sure what happened to my pace. It kind of just fell off, and I was trying to drive the car, but keep the tires under me for the solid hour. And hats off to Raphael and Trey. They had pace and when it got by me, they kind of walked away from me. And once you lose the draft around here at Road America, it's really hard to make up.
Yeah, we were kind of surprised to see a drop back like that. But like you said, it's not a bad result for you, because Chris had another one of his bad races today, and your third place along with the pole, by our estimations, might actually put you into the points lead. So what does that do for you?
Well, it's exciting. It's fun to lead the championship if that is the case. Unfortunate for Chris Braun, but I'll be happy to take the torch and see how it goes, and look forward to the next race and this new car and the new iRacing model that they just released with it. I love it. It feels much more like the real thing. Although I've never driven the real life version of this car, but being out there and driving in real life, the tires feel much more akin to the real life counterparts. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope there's good things to come from the rest of the season.
It's always so cool to hear from real life drivers when the iRacing is starting to really nail it down. But next week, we had a few big wrecks here at the start of this one at Road America, where it's not quite known for that. Whereas Red Bull Ring, the first corner, and then coming up into the braking for Remus, kind of notorious for seeing a bit of schmozzles happen and unfold there. Are you a little concerned about making sure you get another pole?
Yeah, it's going to be key to, obviously, if you get out in front of the field in the first couple of rows or so, you can get away from the, as Calvin Fish likes to say, the argy-bargy of the field, and hopefully take off while everybody else is jostling for position. So I predict, much like this race next week, getting in those front 3 rows is going to be crucial to having a good race.
We'll look out for you. Congratulations on a podium today, and hopefully you'll get a good race next week.
Thanks, Joe.
There's Chris Pies, who finished third. But that's going to wrap us up. So make sure to join us Wednesday, December 14th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the Sport Class. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsors for Series 9, which of course includes Pirelli and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to lasttenth.com. Better car, better driver. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. None of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak. I'll see you on the track.